Hello homemakers and welcome back to DrMummyCakes channel. This is another episode of Your Baking Questions Answered. You ask the questions and I give you the answers and we'll learn together how to make amazing cakes. If you've missed any of the other episodes in this series, why don't you click the playlist which will be showing at the top of your screen, or you can also find it in the description sections. And if you've got any baking questions that you want answered, then drop me a comment down in the section, or you can find me on my social media handles at DrMummyCakes. Oh, and before we get started, have you subscribed? If you haven't, then you're missing out. This is the place to be if you want to learn how to make amazing cakes. So click the subscribe button now and get subscribing. And when you subscribe, click that little bell button so that when I post a new weekly video, you'll be one of the first to know. So let's get started. Today's question is, why does my cake sink in the middle? In the previous episode, I talked about why your cake has a dome when things rise up, and today we'll be talking about why it sinks. And usually you find out that your cake has sunk after you've taken it out of the oven. A common reason why cakes might sink is to do with temperature. If you've watched my channel long enough, you will know that your oven temperature is very crucial. And it's no surprise, after all, that is where all the magic of baking happens, in the oven. And I always say cake making is not that hard. It basically is science. So if you understand the science of how things work, then you can avoid pitfalls and mistakes that will ruin your cake. So number one is you need to make sure that your oven temperature is right. If you are in doubt and you think that your oven temperature is not right, and actually you may be correct, because most ovens, particularly as they get older, are not accurate. You should get an oven thermometer, which is very cheap to buy, and you can actually see whether your oven temperature is accurate. In the previous episode, we talked about doming, and that happens when your oven temperature is too hot. On the flip side, if your oven temperature is on the cooler side, it can cause your cake to sink. And that's because even though it looks like your cake is all baked, the middle bit may be undercooked because you haven't got the right temperature. So the timing that you think is long enough is actually not long enough for the bit in the middle to bake. When you then take your cake out the oven and sit it on the counter top, because the middle bit is undercooked and a little bit soggy and not firm, it sinks. Get it? So that's a common reason. So again, if you're getting constant cakes that sink, it might be a good idea to check your oven temperature. The other thing that can cause your cakes to sink is inaccurate measurement, particularly of your leavening agent. So when I say leavening agent, I mean things like your bicarbonate of soda and your baking soda. If you don't know about leavening agents, you should check out my Baking 101 series, where I give you the lowdown on the different leavening agents used in cake making and in bread making and pastry making in general. So it's very important to follow the measurements of your leavening agent. If it calls for a quarter spoon of baking soda, that's what you should put. Don't be over generous, don't put in more, because if you put in too much, then actually you upset the chemical reaction and then your cakes will get over risen, if that's the right word to do. Or let me just say, put it this way, your cakes will rise too much. When the cakes rise too much, you don't actually get the right structure in your cake to support that over rising, because again, it's not being balanced by increasing the other ingredients, if that makes sense. So actually your cake rises too much, but it can't support that additional rise. So when it gets out of the oven, again, it's not firm enough, everything collapses on itself and it sinks in. Another thing that can cause this is if your leavening agents are out of date. Again, that affects the chemical balance. So one, make sure that you check that your baking powder, your bicarbonate of sodas are in date. If they're not, then chuck it out or use it for your cleaning needs and get fresh one. And the third reason why your cakes may sink is if you have overmixed your batter. If you watch any of my tutorials, you will find that I'm always stressing about over mixing. Once you've started to put your flour into your batter, you need to just mix it until the flour disappears and then stop. If you keep mixing, then you start to work the gluten in the flour molecules, and that again affects the whole chemical process that happens in the oven. So again, it affects the structure, it can't hold, and then it sinks in. The fourth reason is when you're a peeping Tom. So it can be very exciting. Your cake is in the oven. Is it done? Is it done? You're peeking. No, it's not done. You're peeking again, peeking again. That can have a big impact on your cake, because every time you open the oven door, you're letting in cold air. That cools down the temperature of your oven. And remember, we said if your oven temperature is too cool, you'll get undercooked cake. So that's what happens. If you keep opening the door, you can affect the temperature and cause your cake to sink. So as you can see, the reasons why a cake sinks are very easy to be rectified. So hopefully you have learned good tips on how you can prevent this from happening. So next time you make a cake, make sure that you put these tips into practice, and you will surely get a cake that is nice and sturdy and tastes good. If you don't know what to bake, or you're wondering for tried and tested cake recipes, I have loads there. Just check them out, and they are perfect if you're a cake beginner. So easy to follow. Thank you for watching my tutorial. If you've got any questions, any comments, be social, just drop me a line and I will reply you. And don't forget to subscribe. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe now. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next week. Happy baking.